Welcome to Trail Talk Live. Another week, another live. Let's get Ricki in and then we'll intro the show. There we go. There's the man himself. Ricki, how's it going?
Good. What's the story?
The story is it's Trail Talk Live. We're back for our second Monday. We're going to run through the news. We're going to run through Granite Peaks 80K, the big race that you had at the weekend. We're going to hear all about you, and we're going to ask you some questions that people have submitted, mostly on Instagram and a few WhatsApp DMs and things. So looking forward to it. There's so much to get through. Um, if you can't stick around, you can catch up on Spotify, on YouTube, and on Apple. And yeah, while we're here, Ricki, Jesus, let's get this out of the way so we can crack on. What about XMiles? You gotta check out xmiles.co.uk and use the discount code Iron Over Mountains for your discount and get the Super Ricki powder there to help you up the hills. But like on with the show, Ricki, how's the legs before we get into the news? How are you feeling?
I just see a comment there from George, and he's saying let Ricki get some sleep. Ricki has had no sleep. Like sometimes after these big races, it's like all you want to do is sleep, but the legs won't stop hopping. I was hopping out of the bed. I had to get up at like I went to bed at like 10 o'clock. I was rolling around. Everything was starting to hurt. And then I was like, oh, just get up. And I went down and I went down the couch and I tried to watch a bit of telly and maybe sleep. Not a wink, man. Not a wink. So what's keeping me wired now at the minute is caffeine and now a cup of
Cup of
tea.
tea. Cheers.
But no, honestly, like considering it was 80K, considering there was 5,000 meters of climbing and descending in that race, my legs, my body is doing okay. Like it's fine. The worst thing about me at the minute is my two big toes. My two big toes are not in a good way, and they're very sore. But if that's the only bit of pain I have and a little bit of chafe, I'm very happy with that.
Oh, didn't even know about the chef, and we'll have to ask you about that later on. Look, let's crack on with the news because we've got a busy show, but we need to tackle the news, and then we're gonna get into a debrief on your race, which was nearly 10 hours of dot watching for a lot of people, and it was good. It was good. It was good viewing. It was better than live trail. Um, but at the weekend, Francois came back at Transylvania 100K and clocked the win, winning by 64 minutes over Nicola Bassi. And like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, we talked about it last week. There was no competition. He won by 60,
Nah.
65, 64 minutes. Uh, and I think the most interesting thing about this was his time was 8 hours quicker than my time in 2018. So now we know the level. Now we know the
Yeah.
level that Francois is approaching two times better than me.
Well, like it's interesting. Okay, look, it mightn't have been competitive, as in a challenge for him and whatnot, but that doesn't mean he wasn't pushing hard and he wasn't working hard. So obviously he had a great race. Obviously, I think it's a tune-up race for Hard Rock, from maybe a bucket list race. Like I remember that race from years ago, and there was a lot of like focus on that race. It was Dracula's race. It was super cool, huge elevation, just a cool race to do because of like the whole Dracula thing in Transylvania, and it just sounds like it'd be a mental race. So, and you know all about it. You've ran it, like.
Yeah, it's look, it's a great course. It's wild. Uh, the aid stations are the type of thing that you would expect in the Alps and stuff. You know, it's mountain huts and it's a class route. It's wild. It's in a country that, you know, we don't visit usually.
Mm.
So it was a great opportunity for me to go to Romania to go and experience that. And like it's a good course. It's new mountains, and that's kind of one of the reasons we do lots of these things. So good on Francois for clocking up an easy win and pumping out some nice content. Then the other thing we had this weekend was Zegama. Now
Mm.
I know you and I know me. and none of us were watching Zegama because you were running
Yeah,
and I was watching you. So I didn't have a chance to really follow up. I had to go through all of the Zegama stuff yesterday just for the show and just for personal interest as well. But I know the Trail Talk WhatsApp racing group was kicking off about the Golden Trail coverage. So I got my updates during the day from that. But look, Sara Alonso got her first win at Zegama. And what I think was interesting there was that was the second quickest time in that course. Like
yeah,
that she didn't just get an easy win. She ran what was it, 4:27. Now it's 11 minutes slower than Ninka Breekman's course record, but good time, great win, home hero. I just feel good factor with Sara Alonso now leading the Golden Trail Series with that win as well.
yeah. Super cool. Yeah, really, really happy that she was able to get the win. But like that, look, I'm very limited on my knowledge of what happened at Sagama because I was pretty busy. But like looking at the Trail Talk group and trying to go through the 250 messages that were on it, like between all the different groups. So yeah, super result for Sarah, and I mean, like that's her in the lead now in the Gold Trail Series. So it's all to play for because like second place Hoka athlete. She had a great race. That's her first win. No, her that's her first time doing Zagama, and she was second. And she's coming off a couple of wins from last year as well. So it could be tight there. It could be tight.
I think Judith Wider actually rolled an ankle during the race. I think that
Mm.
impacted her race. Um, and she was wearing tectons as well, I
Yeah,
think.
and you know, I look back. I actually look back on other Instagram posts and races that she was doing throughout the Gold Trail series, and I think it's just a personal choice with the Tecton X2 because she's not running in the Tecton X3. She's always running in the Tecton X2. So obviously she prefers the lower profile. Maybe doesn't like the maybe doesn't like the collar around her ankle as much, and maybe she can't get the lockdown she needs for those technical kind of trails. You know.
Yeah, but the difference in the two and the three, the two feels much more like, if you take away the carbon plate, it's more like a traditional trainer, isn't it? It's not like a super foam, it's lower stack, it
Yeah,
fits more like a Mafate or something in terms of just putting the shoe on, am I right?
yeah, it's a much more responsive kind of. You get a little bit more ground feeling and a lower profile, like less stack height in it. So you definitely are getting that a little bit more control, but yet you have that wide base that is on the Tecton X3 as well. So you're getting that stability as well, like you know.
Yeah.
So if she's prone to rolling an ankle, that's a very good shoe because like when I was running the Tecton X2, that was my big thing, and the Tecton X1. I said that is one shoe you won't roll your ankle in, you know. So there's a lot of stability in that
Yeah.
shoe. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, look, let's move on. But last thing on Sarah Alonso, this month she signed an extension to her deal with ASICS, so she's there until 2028. And then the next race she goes and wins the Gamma, an iconic, like an
Mm.
original Golden Trail. So great news there. Elisine won
Yeah.
his first race of the year as well. Looked like he was wearing some kind of newer version of the Sherag. Some chat in the WhatsApp saying, "Oh, it's just a regular, but with the Zegalite grip." I think it looked like a bit more of a thick boy
Yeah.
shoe. It looked like there's a bit more stack on it. So I think what we're looking at here is potentially a prototype of the Sherag 2, which
Yeah.
we expect this summer. I don't know when they're going to start building the hype around that, but good on him. Last year, this was the race that they tested the Sherag Brute in, both him and Killian. So a good test ground, that course. And then the last bit of news about Sagama, Stian is back.
Mm.
Finished ninth in 3:59, 14 minutes off his PB. Um, and his PB would have got him second in this year's race. So what do you think of staying back?
Yeah, cool to see Steve back, right? But if you're talking about 14 minutes after your PV, that, I don't know, man. I don't want to like. I'm not trying to like. I don't know, spread rumors, but I mean, if you're 14 minutes off your PB and you're supposedly training super hard, why are you 14 minutes off your PV?
Okay,
Like, What were you
didn't have
doing
the
that had you 14 minutes
We'll
quicker? Like,
move on. He just didn't have any juice that day, so
yeah,
no, it's good to see, it's good to see Stian back, and
no, definitely, it is, it
I
is, it
actually
is. Yeah,
had him in my. I think I had him down for fifth in fantasy, and it was probably a little bit of a hard vote that one. But look, good to see him back, and I hope he's back up there because he could grind up a hill like no other, and I hope we get
yeah.
to see that again soon.
Yeah, and to be honest, if I did pick a fantasy free trail, I would have had him in it too for the heart as well. I would have. I just didn't. I didn't enter it this year, this
Oh,
time.
I noticed you didn't. You're probably sick of getting beat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Look, I never like playing games anyway.
Uh, Next up, Dan Green was on Zach Bitter's podcast. Dan Green, winner, course record holder of the Cocodona 250. It was a great interview. Check it out. I do like Zach's podcast, but what I think is really interesting is post race, the feed put out a post on Instagram about Dan had fueled at 110 grams of carbon hour for Cocodona and all of this other marketing stuff. And we were chatting about it in the Trail Talk WhatsApp going, not sure about that. It seemed all too slick and perfect for that to
Yeah.
be actually true for a Cocodona. Well, Dan said on Zach's podcast that I think he said something along the lines of, I think 100 grams of carb per hour, 100, not even 110, would be foolish for something like Cocodona. I kind of ate these cookie things and I was eating real food and ramen and aid stations and I was doing gels and drinks in between. And there was no talk. Like he said that I wasn't doing that. No, he wasn't questioned on the feed post, obviously, but I think what we're saying is like, come on, the feed, do a little bit better. Don't just stick out
Yeah.
some BS to create sales.
I was going to say, like, if you're going to say that, maybe have a chat with him before he goes on and talks about it, and then says, "No, no, I wasn't doing that, or I was just doing this." Like, you know, at least cover your tracks or try to cover your tracks.
But like you could do it in an authentic way. Like if they had a said to Dan, give us some information that we can use for marketing on your nutrition. Like if they had a wanted to put out a narrative that was high carb, they could have maybe said, like, what high carb were you doing
Yeah,
during the day? Like what was your highest carb period? And they could have put out something like, oh, Dan was on 110 grams during the mornings or during the daytime, or they can craft the story around the truth rather than just lie about he was doing 110 grams per hour for whatever like the time that race took. So I thought that was disingenuous and I didn't like that. They,
yeah,
they
but
could
why
definitely do
not
better.
even? Why not even like? Because the feed has all the brands, right? It has all the nutrition. Like, why not say, well, Dan was using such and such a gel, and he was using this for, let's say, 6 hours on that day, and he switched to another brand. He was using that, and that's fine. And you could say he was mixing and matching, and he was hitting around 100 grams per hour, and give or take. Could have easily done it that way, like you said, but at least tell us where are you coming up with these figures? How do you know exactly what he's taking? If he's then saying that, oh well, I was eating chips at this aid station and I was eating donuts at this aid station, like where are you getting the data to say that he's having 110 grams of carbs an hour? Like,
I know it's marketing gone mad. Big Carb
yeah,
is here to sell you food, whether it's true or not.
yeah.
Next up in the news, new speed record, male and female on Mont Blanc. It was only this time last year that Jack Kunzel and Anna De Monte were setting records and attempting to set records, which I was involved in crewing. Well, Benjamin Vedrins, Skimo athlete, set 454 round trip, bettering Killian's
Mm.
457. Jack ran or skied 459. So the overall FKT now is with Benjamin. So like obviously a stout time. You take a Killian time down, you've knocked it out of the park. So nice one.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're going to take it off anyone and you're taking it off Killian, then it's legit. It's like wow, like that man was moving. If he's taking it off Killian, like Killian's had it for such a long time as well, and lots of people have tried it, but like phenomenal time. Like taking those many minutes, that many minutes off it, that's a ferocious time.
Yeah, yeah. And then Elise Pousset, most would know her maybe from Sky Running. She also lowered the time down to 6:54 from Hilary Gerardi's 7:27. So massive, massive
Mm.
time. Uh, and also Anna De Monte's time was I forget what time that was, but look, Elise has got the overall time now. And there's a little bit of controversy about that we've chatted about in the Trail Talk WhatsApp as well. But look, two stout times. May is the time of year to go for Mont Blanc. So anyone interested in it, get over to
Yeah.
Chamonix and do your training block so you peak in May. But that's great to see that. Last thing on the news before we get into the Granite Peaks debrief, the Ricki Wynne race debrief and viewer Q&A. Hardest geezer. Hardest geezer
Hmm.
has uploaded all of his content now, all of his Strava uploads to Strava with the New Zealand run. And I've read a few articles about this, read a few posts, and what's really interesting about this is I like just went into it for the purposes of this news story. And I found that there's this site called fakemy.run. And it's unbelievable. Like I posted it into the Trail Talk WhatsApp banter group. You can go on this website and you can plot your route, like the Strava route creator. You can tell it, uh, I want this to be at 7 minute K, 5 minute K, 10 minute K, whatever it is. You can tell it you want it to fluctuate by 5, 10, 100. Like you can set how much it fluctuates. You can tell it to include heart rate data and how much variability to include in it. You can tell it to put in cadence data, and then you can name it. You can do everything else that you can do in Strava. It can create it, and then you can buy the route for one token, and you 5 tokens is $5. So for a dollar, you can create this route. And out of interest, I went on and I purchased the tokens, and I created a run. So while I've had a sprained ankle, yesterday
You
I
you
actually
you've a 2:28 marathon.
no, I actually ran the length of New Zealand yesterday.
Oh, deadly, deadly.
I did a 7 minute K, never went down below like an 8 minute K because I had to stop for the toilet and stuff. And heart rate was solid,
How long did
150
it take
average.
you? How long did it take you?
I didn't, I'm not sure about that, but it was like 3,000 kilometers or something. But like, here, no bother, no bother. I
And
didn't even
you
have
look grand.
I didn't have
Yeah,
to
you look
leave the
sound.
laptop and it was done.
You
Unbelievable.
look better than me, man. You look better than me. But come on now, in fairness, it's ridiculous that you can do this. That is just so wrong, man. It's like there was that marathon, I think it was last year, the year before, where there was, I think, 3,000 people cheated in the marathon. Seriously, like, where is your head at that you think that you need to do that? Like, come on, man. Nobody gives a shit, really, what any of us do. So, like, why do yeah, it's like,
You do it for
come on,
yourself.
don't. Yeah, you do it for yourself, exactly. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. We don't want to know anyone like that.
Unbelievable that this type of shit goes on. And it's so easy to do because GPX is like, it's just a very basic code that you can write into a text file. So
Yeah.
you can write whatever you want into it. I mean, it's very simple to do. So whenever there's a platform like that, fakemy.run, you can just create whatever you want. So
Do,
absolute
do you know?
nuts.
I actually sometimes I could start a run, right. You forget to start the watch, and I could run 3 or 4 K, and at the end of the run, I know that I missed those Ks out, right, and I might add them in manually. And when I'm doing that, I actually feel like I'm cheating. I feel like I'm after adding 3K to that there manually because I had to import it manually, and it just feels wrong. So like, come on, grow a conscience. Don't be buying Strava runs. Nobody cares. Don't be buying Strava runs.
Now that you've said it, I think what I'm going to work on while I'm getting over this ankle sprain, I'm going to work on my 220 marathon. I'm gonna I'm gonna try and get my marathon down to 220 before I get back to running. So that's
Yeah,
everyone needs an objective and a goal to work towards, and that's gonna be mine.
yeah, nice. Yeah, yeah. Aim high, aim high.
Ricky, it's that time of the show. We've gone through the news. It's time to talk about the Granite Peaks 80K. So let's set the table. This race took place on Sunday in the Mourne Mountains in County Down, Northern Ireland, Ireland, call it what you want. 80K was the number. I think you clocked 82K, around 4 or 5 thousand meters of vert. What is it?
I think it for most people it was coming up like 4,900 meters of climb.
Okay,
It was in
so
around 4,900 or 5. Yeah.
yeah, small field entered this race because this was the Irish World's Team Qualifier race. Four places were up for grabs, and the goal time, which was, I have to say, was an estimate because this is a brand new course, was 9 hours 30. We'll
Mm.
come to that in a second, but what I think what we'll do, we got a load of questions in, but let's go through the race in sections, and then we'll drop in some questions at the end of each section. So uh, let's start off with the first 30 Ks was on sort of forest tracks, Tollymore and Dunnard forests. Take us through that part of the race. How did the race kick off?
It started fast. It started way too fast. Like it was like, okay, you had Paddy O'Leary, North Face professional athlete, legit. You had Dave Ryan, I think he runs for Callias. How do you say that?
Yeah, so Kailas is the main company, and then Fuga is the trail shoe or trail company. So Kailas Fuga.
Yeah, so he's one of their. He's sponsored by them. He's a very very good
Oh
runner.
yeah,
I've
like
never raced him before.
podium
Yeah,
at Arc of Attrition, 100 miler in January, isn't that right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Super nice guy, super nice guy. But the two of them lads took off like rockets. Now look, granted, they haven't been in the Mourns in a long time, so they were going by the splits, and they were thinking we need to hit this 30K in 2:45 or less or under. Whereas, and I kind of had a gauge that if we were in around 2:45 or 2:50, 2:50 more so, we'd be okay. We'd be fine because I'd recce the mountain section enough to know that I could claw back some time. But that's it. So it started hot, it started fast, and we'd say straight away it broke up into six. So there was six of us from the start pushing the pace, kind of like 4 minute kilometers for the first couple of kilometers. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to just step back a little bit, let the two boys off. So then it was like them two, and there was four of us. So there was four of us, and it stayed that way for a long time. Paddy and Dave were way ahead, but all of a sudden there is a couple of steep climbs within that. It's all very very runnable. It's all super fast. It's super nice fire road, kind of loose gravelly trail, but it's fast. It is fast. But there's one or two like mountain bike sections that to take us up, and they are like steep. You're almost on like, you could nearly put your hands down and start climbing up with your hands. They're that steep. So the elastic band started coming back a little bit then because the two boys were coming back towards us. And I was very, very happy with that because I was thinking if we can get to the mountains in a group where there's 5 or 6 of us in a group, for me, I was going to be very happy in that position that I didn't have to go charging after anybody when we got to the mountains because I kind of was like, I could be good here. Yeah.
So what about like what was the general feeling? What was your strategy in that first part, and how were you feeling? Like, what was the weather like? Was there a lot of nervous energy like before the race? How long did it take? Every race takes a little bit of time to settle into its groove. When was this settling into a groove?
For me personally, like I thought I was under pressure for about 7 or 8K. Like it was like I was feeling this could be a little bit too fast. and I was a little bit nervous and just tight, not tight, but just nervous energy coming off me, you know. And I think I had the same kind of feeling around me as well from everybody else. Paddy and Dave, they seemed to be flying along. They seemed to be just cruising along. But there was me and a few of the other lads, and it was a little bit nervous. But after I'd say about 12K, we all just started to relax. The boys started coming back a little bit more towards us. And it was like, all right, we just settle in now, you know. And now, look, I was running with two good friends of mine as well. So Killian and Keith. So Keith Lane, Killian, two solid runners, two very good friends of mine as well that I train with a lot. So I was very happy to be in their company. You know, it was almost like a comfort blanket having them around me. And it was like, okay, we'll just sort of work together here. We won't do anything too crazy. And we'll just let the race come to us until we get to the mountains.
Right. Okay. And then what about nutrition during the forest section? You started, I mean, did you start with a couple of bottles? I think you had two drop bags in the race. Was the first one before you were basically climbed up to the mountains?
Yeah, so we'll say two drop bags, one at 32K. So it was 32K the first section, right? In Tollymore. First drop bag, 32K. Second one was up at the reservoir at 52K when you just before you head up Ben Crom. What I did, so I didn't want two bottles shaking around up front, running through Tollymore, and I'm very used to running with a handheld. So I had one handheld, and then I was stacked with SIS Beta Fuel 40 gram gels. So I only had one handheld for that 30K. And you know me, I'm like a camel. I don't need that much water. I don't need that much fluids. And then I was just relying on the gels. But also, like, I did something. I made sure that I did something that uh, where I didn't want to fill my whole stomach up with gels and fluids that early in the morning after having my breakfast. I had a decent breakfast. I had a bagel, right, peanut butter and jam, and I had two coffees, and I had a flapjack in the car on the way over to the race. And it was still very early in the morning. And I says, right, don't be stacking a heap of fluid and a heap of gels in on top of all that. Let that settle. So running through Tollymore, I was like waiting until my stomach sort of felt good. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going to start putting fuel in. So I was just sipping away on the drink. And then I was popping a gel. And like for me, look, again, 5'2", I weigh very little. So I was probably getting 60 to 70 grams of carbs in every hour for those first 3 hours before we hit the mountain.
What was in the bottle?
So Torque Vanilla Pod was in the bottle, and then the SAS Beta Fuel, yeah, the 40 grams, like 40 gram gels. I have to say, they're just brilliant. They're brilliant. Like when you're like even emergency, it's like, oh wait, I haven't took a gel for a while. Bang a 40 gram into you. It honestly nearly worked. Like I could feel it working straight away. So good, so good. Yeah,
That's because you're a super responder.
yeah,
If I took that, I wouldn't feel it for a few hours. So we're going through Tollymore. There was a ton of us following the dots. Uh, and Tollymore, Donard. There's a little rough section between the two. When did the guys start to come back to you, and then take us through before you get through to the open mountain and through to that first drop bag?
yeah. So I'd say we're talking maybe 27K out of the 32. Everybody's back together. The band is back together. You know, there's five of us in it now. There was another guy not that far behind, but there was five of us in a group. And when they came back and there was the five of us, I was like, this is this is exactly what I wanted. I really wanted that little group there so that we all attacked the mountain at the same time, you know, and then you could just let the mountain do what the mountain was going to do, and that was eat, lads.
So we did see a bit of separation after that first drop bag, and then things somewhat came back together, but there was still like running from the once you got up to the wall, Millmore, through to let's say Sleep Muck, that section is still good running, even though you're in the
Yeah,
open mountain. And then you've got dirt where you have to drop down and climb over Save the Glock before you get down to the dam. I actually thought some separation might happen there, just with people maybe not being as used to some technical terrain or not. I want to know how were the shoes in this section? because I mean the viewers will know that I haven't had the best of luck with the Tecton X3, but they're a different weapon on you.
I have to say, like for me, they were perfect. Like I, there's some days where everything just works, right? And I always say, like, if a race went really well, I didn't kick a stone. You know, that's what I say. I didn't kick a stone. Like I did not kick a stone. I didn't roll an ankle. I didn't have anything. I think the only time I had a slip or anything was at the very, very end. There was a really shitty grassy descent at the very end. And that was the only time I had an issue. That's just because my toes were just bet off me from the descents. But hey, one thing I'll say, right? When we came onto the mountain section, so there was an aid station, 32K in, right? Just your drop bag is there. You grab your drop bag. No crew allowed, right? So it's just you're just grabbing your drop bag. Killian Fleming charged through the aid station. He just grabbed his bag, took whatever. He had like elastic bands wrapped around everything. That it was super fast. And like Dave and Paddy were still standing there. They got there just a little bit before us, you know, maybe 10 seconds before us. But Killian was in and out. And I looked and I went, oh, I gotta go. I gotta go now because I don't want to chase Killian. I want to run with Killian, you know. So I got out. And that really upset the kind of the rhythm that everybody probably had because he was planning and I know he was, you know, he was planning on making them work really hard after stopping to get going again to catch up with him again. And that really changed the sort of the vibe, if you know what I mean. It went from all right, that was a road race to now we go to work, like, you know. And I that registered with me straight away, and I was smiling. I was thinking, Killian, that was a very, very smart move, like, you know, because he knew what was ahead and he wanted to get up there. Then all the polls came out. Then all the polls came out, and everyone was charging up the hill of polls. But remember, there was one little dude who had no polls. Ricki Wynne had no polls, eh?
We're gonna come to that. Uh, what did you pick up in the aid station? And after we get through what nutrition you've lifted, run us through the race through to the dam, through to 52K.
Yes. So I just dropped my handheld and dropped my rubbish, picked up some new gels, more SIS beta fuel, and two bottles. So two bottles of SIS beta or two bottles of Torque Vanilla Pod, put them in, ran after Killian. I actually was putting them in as I was running out. You know what I mean? I had grabbed everything and I was moving because I was saying, don't be standing still. Don't be standing still today. Today's all about going forward. So everything was done at a purpose, you know. And then from there on out, it was you run along the wall for a little bit and then you're heading up Mealmore. And it's a horrible climb. It's a climb that just sort of you know straight away, right? You're in the Mourns now. This is going to start hurting now very soon. So you're up to the top of Mealmore, and then a lovely descent of that. But that's when I realised that I'm better at one thing, and that was going downhill. So my downhill was a lot smoother and a lot quicker than what the boys were doing, and that I wasn't having to put any effort in on the downhills. I was just doing what I do on the downhills, and the boys seemed to be always way behind me on the downs. Now they'd catch me on every climb, but I was thinking this is good for me because if I can just keep doing this and they keep having to chase me on the uphills, and then on the next descent I'm gone again, they're having to work that little bit harder to just stay with me. And I wasn't trying to pull away or anything. So just doing what I was doing, and we get all the way down to the reservoir. You get down to the reservoir, you're out onto the road, onto like a road along the dam, and
Which is
that's
two
bringing you.
miles, isn't it?
You're
3K.
yeah, yeah, and it's horrible because you're after coming off like boggy, mucky, nice, soft stuff, and then you're onto the road, hard packed road, and you've got like I think it's like 4K. You said 2 miles, maybe like
Okay.
and it's and we're running up that. It's me and Killian, and Paddy is just behind. Now we've created a gap, so we've probably got. I'd say we've got at least four, maybe five, maybe 6 minutes on fourth and fifth place behind us. So I'm just saying to Killian, I'm talking to Killian now. We're running along the thing. We're two mates. I'm saying, Killian, just do what I'm doing. Stay with me, stay calm, and just lock into this position. Whatever you do, don't slow down, but don't go mad. You don't need to do anything now. We're in top four qualify. Don't be getting obsessed with I want to win or I need second or I need third. Just need to just lock it in, stay calm, and just keep moving forward. Still a long way to go. We're talking 50K. We're talking 5 hours. Super fast. I have to say, like I looked down and went, man, we're after running that 50K in 5 hours. This is great running. This is great running. So now we're up at the top of the reservoir. Drop bag number two, and it's just straight in, grab the bottles. I actually had a bottle of Coke in that bag that I got the day before, and I let it go flat. I took two mouthfuls out of that, and then I had my bottles, and I was up the steps. So you're up the steps, you're up Ben Crom, and then it's
So why did you not lift poles at this point?
you had to start with poles. So if you were going to use poles, you had to start with them. You had to finish with them. You couldn't pick poles up along the way.
Right. Okay. So dig into that a little bit. Why did you not go with poles? Because it's 5,000 meters of vert in the mountains. Go for it.
Two reasons. Two,
You didn't want to
two
carry them.
reasons. Uh, I didn't train with them, so I didn't train with them at all because we weren't fully sure if we were allowed use poles because it's a race in Northern Ireland. A lot of the races in Northern Ireland don't allow poles. They do down south, but not in the north of Ireland. So we weren't 100% sure we could use poles until maybe about 2 weeks out from the race. So I had not trained with my poles. Reason number two, my poles were seized. They were completely seized. So, like, the lecky poles, there's a big issue with them. Sometimes shit gets in the sleeve and they will not come apart. And mine were completely seized. So that just, yeah.
Same thing
So it was
happened to
like,
my
what?
poles when I lifted them out 2 weeks ago. Like my ultralight ones wouldn't come out. So yeah.
Yeah. So
All right.
that was it, and that was it. It was like, well, looks like we're not using poles, but I was very happy with that decision. I was really happy with that decision, like because I actually think that yeah, there's 5,000 meters of climbing in it, but there's lots of rocky technical climbs, and the poles they're kind of in the way. They're getting stuck in between rocks. I was watching some of the boys behind me, and like they were like awkward with them because you couldn't get into a right rhythm with them. Some of the climbs were nearly too steep for the poles. So hands on knees was just working perfect for me. It was working perfect, and I was really happy with how my legs dealt with the climbs.
That's the thing with the Mournes, the climbs aren't big. We're probably talking anything from 2 to 400 meters of a climb. It might be 10, 15 minutes at best in some of
Yeah,
these climbs. So it feels like they're in
yeah,
and out, they're in and out. It's not like pulling them out in the Alps and you're doing 1,500 meter climb, you're locking in for 90 minutes or whatever it takes you. So I totally get with that. Sticking on gear and just tackling another one of the viewer questions. Any gear choices like in hindsight that you wish you'd maybe didn't do, or was there anything that you thought I'd like to change that at a drop bag?
no, but do you know what I did? I did something that I would never or normally do. Was I wore arm sleeves because it was first thing in the morning. A really light pair of arm sleeves, and I had a really light pair of gloves, like really light pair of gloves. And I had the gloves in here in my vest, and I had the arm sleeves on me. And the arm sleeves were a godsend because the temperature was changing. So the weather was like sometimes it was really warm and hot. Then all of a sudden it could be really windy and cold and maybe a little bit of rain. So all I was doing was regulating. I was rolling up the arm sleeves. I was maybe putting on the glove if it got a little bit too cold. But most of the time it was just the arm sleeve would go up. 10 minutes later, it'd start getting warm again. The sun had come out, and I'd roll them down, just sort of keep them like bunched up around me, my wrists. And I'm telling you, that worked a dream. Now, that was one of the best things I ever did that worked really well. That I actually went with, that was one of the best ideas I ever had to start with arm sleeves.
So we're coming up into a bit of another open mountain section. And one of the questions to take into consideration here is navigation. So you had the GPX on your chorus. Tell us about that as we unfold Sleeve Binion and the Lamagan Beg section of the run.
Yeah, the GPX file was very good. Like, there's no markings. There was no markings. It was all open mountain section. So anyone that knows me, I'm terrible. I get lost very,
You're
very easily. So I
better.
was yeah. So I was I'm better. Yeah. Like, I have been training with GPX and I've got better, but like, it was very good. There was no problem. And because I had recce'd it so often, especially from Ben Crom to Lamigan and from Lamigan home, I recce'd that so many times that I knew that like the back of my hand, and that was a huge advantage because Paddy O'Leary was ahead of me going up Ben Crom. Now, he was behind me and Killian when we got to the reservoir, and he was so strong on the climbs that he had caught us again. But I was very happy for him to pass me on that climb because I was saying that, "Hey, this is Paddy O'Leary, man. If I could sit in with him, this is brilliant. He's going to drag me along on this climb and I can stay with him." But I knew when I got to the top of that climb, he wouldn't get off Ben Crom as quick as I'd get off it. And then at the bottom of Ben Crom, on the turn, there's a tight left-hand turn and you're heading back up towards Lamigans. There's a lot of running to do there. If you've got legs, it's all uphill, but it's runnable.
So this is
And
the
I got
run up.
down.
This is the run up the Annalong Valley, back towards
Yeah.
you. Then you take the kind of the right hand trail up over Lamigan. So yeah, take us from there. And also, there's a question in the chat. Which chorus was it you were using?
Yeah, so like, look, normally I switch between the Pace 3 and the Vertex. So I was using the Vertex in this because the screen is way bigger, the maps are really, really clear. So the Vertex is brilliant, battery life is huge. So the Vertex was definitely to watch for that race. Yeah, so coming down off Ben Crom, lovely. I think it's a lovely descent off that. It's really good,
This is
and
off Binion,
it's.
off Sleeve
Oh,
Binion.
sorry.
The descent. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
of Sleeve Binion. I think it's a lovely descent. There's like rocky steps, there's a bit of grass, but it's fast if you can run fast down it. And when I got to the bottom of that, tight left-hander running back up there, what you call it, analong,
Annalong Valley. Yeah.
coming up Analong Valley, then I can look back exactly where I came from, right? So I can see Paddy, and Paddy's not halfway down Binion. He's not even halfway down it. So I'm like going, all right, let's move. And I wasn't again. I never once said, all right, let's push, let's push. It was just, let's just keep doing what you're doing. If you can run, run. So I was running, and that's where I started to make the gap. And then I got to Lamigans. I really like Lamigans. I think it's a great climb because there's like people say, oh, you can go and you go slightly to the left or you can go slightly to the right. Just go straight up. I mean, straight up. But the rocks were dry. Just I went bullet straight all the way up it, and I was up it in a shock because there's a 25K race on same day, right? 25K, 50K, and the 80K. There was two lads in the 25K who were battling it out for first and second. They were just behind me as well there, so that was a little push for me to get up. I was thinking, can I get up this before these two lads? And it's just a little thing in your head just to keep you moving forward.
Did you?
So got up, yeah, yeah. Now I got up the top of Lamigan, but Paddy then was not far behind. He's so strong on Lamigans, and he was back beside me again. Yeah. So then we're at the top of Lamigans. We're running very, very close to each other. I'm still a little bit ahead of him. But then that you know the name of this one. So that next descent of
Yeah. So you've got
Lamigans, what do
you've
you
got
call that?
you've got Lamigan, you've got Cove, you've got Beg, and it's rough ground throughout.
Yeah. But I flew down that, man. I flew down that, and I recce that so many times, and I never ever got a line as good off all of those that brought me onto the brandy pad. I got down to the brandy pad like in one motion almost. It was just I was like going, oh wow, that was a great line, and that's just luck. That's just a bit of luck that my whatever way I was running, whatever way I was feeling, I was so relaxed, and I just got down there, and I was like, "Shit, man, that was beautiful." I'm on the brandy pad now, and then it's like, "All right, I'm on the brandy pad. I'm heading towards Donard, and then they shoot us off, right? So before you get to the back of Donard, they shoot us off to the right down into this swamp, and that was shit.
Yeah.
That was really shit. Uh,
That's not
yeah.
even a trail that there's no races that use that. It's not a trail that anyone uses. And even whenever you're heading down there, the where you turn. at that section beside Rocky is a place called Hare's Castle, and there is a trail down there, but no one uses it. Like very few people would use that. So that was there to get the distance in.
The only fall I had, like the only fall I had the whole race was there because there is no trail and it's just heather up to your knees, up to your hips almost. And like I kept having to look at the watch. I kept like every few seconds I was like having a look at the watch. And because I was doing that, then I slipped and I fell. And like I made shit of this hand, and it was piss and blood for about an hour. But that was all because that was just a really horrible section. But then I was just thinking, look, if this is horrible for me, it's going to be horrible for everyone else. So just calm down, pick yourself up, and get around to Donner as quick as you can, right? And then this is where something happened in the race where the 50K runners now were starting to catch us, okay? So they're
Now,
doing the same.
as you dig into this, I know, so in terms of distance wise, this section, it's around about 60-ish K, 65K.
Yeah, 65, yeah.
I know from watching the dot, there was separation happening here. Things were going well. So interspersed with this story about strategy, because it did feel like there was moves happening. Why did you make the move? Was it pre-planned? Talk about the race strategy as you're in this section and coming up towards Donard.
Like, since I've been up in the mornings training, and me and you had this conversation before that you were asking me what would my strategy be, and now it would have been the exact same whether I was in first or fourth. Okay, so I said if I could get to Donard with legs, that's where I was going to make a move. So that if I had to close a gap or if I had to open up a gap, that's where I was going to do it because I really enjoy that section. I really enjoy going from Donner to Comada, down to Hare's Gap, and then up
Burn.
Burna. Yeah, I've got good. I've got good. And up Burna. And I really enjoy that section. I've recce'd that section so many times because it's accessible. You know, you can get to it from a lot of different angles. You can turn some of your training routes always in that direction. And it's just a nice run. And now it's a tough run. Like you're going up the back of Donner, you're going up the back, you're going up Comada, and then you're going to burn it. And I mean, they're three good climbs, like they're three good climbs. But you've also got great running off them. You've got great running off Donard. If you've got legs, you've got great running off Comada. You've great, love that descent off Comada. And then off Binion or off Burna, you're home. You're home, you know. So going up Donard, I knew that Enda wasn't too far behind me because when I was running around in that shitty section where I fell, I could see Enda coming. You know, I could see him, and
In
then
the
I could see
50K.
Paddy in the 50K, and I could see Paddy behind him because Paddy was wearing like an orange North Face top, and I could see Enda coming. So I said, "Okay, Enda's coming, right?" And then I said, "Enda's going to pass me now," and I was okay with that at that time. But then I was halfway up Donard, and I looked behind me and there's no sign of ending. I'm going, oh, maybe he fell or something, whatever, you know. So I said, keep going. So then I was nearly at the top of Donard. I looked back and I could see Enda right at the bottom. And I says, okay, goal number two. He's not passing me today. I says, he's not passing me. So I'm getting to the finish before the 50K runners get to the finish. And that then is another thing just to keep you pushing forward. Because at that time I had thought, I have this. Paddy cannot catch me now. It's physically impossible unless I fall now and break my leg. He cannot catch me. You know. So now it's like, how far can I make this gap grow? And I want to finish ahead of the 50K runners. So then it's like I get off Donard as quick as I can. Great descent off Donard. Then this big shower of rain and hail comes. It's very cold, and it's freezing. But I'm like going, I'm not stopping to put my jacket on. It's going to pass. I could see it was going to pass. It's only going to be 10 minutes. We're out of this. Get up the top of Comada. I look back again. Little look back. No sign of Enda. Like, and you know, like you can see the whole of Donner, the whole downhill of Donner, like it's so clear. And I'm there. He's still not off Donner. I'm there. He must have fell. He must have fell. So that's it. Keep going. Keep going. And then there's two ladies. Last water stop. You know, they're there. They've got water. They've got Lucas. They're at the Hare's Gap just before the stairs, and then they're asking me, do I want to drink? I says, no, I'm grand. I keep going, I keep going. Halfway up Burna now, halfway up Burna. And I actually stopped, turned around and looked. And now the sun is out again. It's nice and clear. I could see a long way back. I can almost see up to Comada, like. And I'm like going, there's no sign of him. And this isn't Paddy. This is End I'm talking about. And I'm going, he's not there. And I'm going, this is great. I'm after like making a gap on the 50k lad. So now, how much of a gap have I got in Paddy? So then it's right. That's it. You're home and hose now. Get down here as safe as you can. You're back into Tollymore. You've got 4k of nice, fast running. Let's bring it home.
I mean, you've skipped over the fact that you had to climb up Millmore and descend through the grassy gully
Uh,
of Spellac
yeah, yeah.
with your sore toes, which I just have to say, nobody ever goes down Spellac. People come up that gully because it's a nice climb up Millmore. Nobody ever goes down that. So again, questionable route choices when you could have come off Binion in this race and run down through that valley or the down through Trassy.
Oh,
So take us through that bit.
yeah. Oh, that's yeah. So like, anyone that was like following me on Instagram or whatever, they would have seen that I was putting up pictures of that side of Mealmore when you come off the back of Mealmore, and a few times I questioned like, where is the best line of that? Because no matter what way I tried it, I was always getting stuck. I was always having to like, make those awkward jumps and hanging on the rocks, and I was thinking, this is an impossible descent to do fast. I was thinking, how do I get off this quicker? Like, because if it comes down to a race off that, I was worried that I picked the wrong line. Again, just some days everything just clicks. I knew to go a little bit wide, and I just picked that perfect line. And I was at the bottom of Mealmore in seconds. It was the best time. It was the best run ever I did off Mealmore, and I went off that a lot of times in my recce's. And then it was up that last time and then down Spelling. Spelling was brutal. I have to say it was awful. It's a horrible descent. It's grassy, it's slippy. You're kind of like jumping off banks down onto more slippy banks. And my toes were so sore. It was like every time I took a step there, I was having to do it sideways. It felt like somebody was hitting me in the toes with a hammer. And I was like, it's okay, just breathe. You're nearly there. You're nearly at the gate into Tollymore.
And at this point, like the elastic had well and truly broken because you ended up finishing with a 21-minute advantage over Paddy. So that I think basically from the brandy pad the whole way to the finish, the gap was just growing and growing. So you obviously didn't know that. You just knew he was now out of sight, but you didn't know what it was. But you finished fast. If anyone saw your Strava, like the gap at the start of the race was similar to the gap at the end of the race, which is super impressive. Like, how did you feel in that last section? Was it were you smelling the barn? Were you, I just want to get this done? Were you like, I've got this? What feelings were going through your mind?
Again, like what you said, I wasn't 100% sure like how big of a gap I had back to Paddy. So I still had to make sure that I was pushing hard. And I had asked, see, that was one section that I didn't know. I didn't know how far it was from the gate in Tollymore to the finish line because at the start of the race, we went a different way, right? So I had asked one of the lads, Keith or Killian, I said, how far is that? And they said, oh, it's around 4K. But like I think it was closer to like 5K than 4K, so it was like, all right, I'm moving now at like 420s, and I'm thinking, well, there's 1 kilometer, there's 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. Where's the finish? Like, where's the finish? And it's like, oh man, I just want to be done. I just want to stop running. And then it was funny because there was a woman and she was taking a video of me coming up, and I just said to her, I said, is the finish line far away? And we all know this story. We all know this story because that volunteer hasn't a clue where the finish line is. And she said, it's about a kilometer away. I'm after running about 5 kilometers. I'm thinking, there's no way it's another kilometer. But like, thankfully, she was wrong. And it was only about 200 meters away. And I just saw everybody's there, and I was like, I got it. That's it. And there's a guy there, Dave Barry, and he had a video camera on me, and it was like, how do you feel? And I just said, we're going to the world champs, baby.
Yeah, it must have felt so good. Like you had such a strong block. If you talk about specificity in a training block, like you did it. You came up and stayed in the moorings and recce'd the route, got familiar with the terrain and the route. I mean, you only have to listen to this chat and you're knocking off names of mountains that, Jesus Christ, like 2 months ago you were annoying me with how wrong you were getting the mountain names.
Yeah, I knew Donard, and that was about it. But I couldn't tell you if I was on it or not.
So, like in that last in the rest of the race, a few other questions. Like we're coming up on time, but I do want to answer off some of these questions before we move on. Did you pick up any mountain water? Like were the gels going down? Were you sticking to this 60, 70, 80, whatever it was? Like briefly touch on the nutrition and like were you just relying on those caches? Did you use water from the pipe that's on Cometa? Give us some of this info.
No, like I stuck to Torque Vanilla Pod and SIS gels, like the Beta Fuel, only the Beta Fuel, only the one flavor all day. And I'm not messing with you. I never had a run where, like, I never once felt bloated. I never once felt sick. I never once felt like I was low on energy. And I'll tell you, for me to be truthfully honest with you, not like the feed, right? Not like the feed. For me to be truthfully honest with you, I think it's more important to just try and keep your stomach happy, as in not too full. Don't be ramming carbs in. Don't be saying, "Oh, well, I need to get this in every hour." You don't. Your body sometimes just needs a little bit of time. And if you're in tune with your stomach and your head, and you kind of go, "Do you know what? Maybe I'll wait another 10 minutes before I pop that gel." And then that 10 minutes, it'll be all the difference. And then I get that spike of energy again and I'm good to go. But I never had a drop. I never once had a drop. But then again, I never had a drop. My legs never had a drop. I never once said, "Oh, well, there, me uphill legs are gone," or, "Oh, there, me downhill legs are gone," or, "Me flat running legs are gone." Everything just stayed calm. And I'll tell you why it stayed calm. Everything stayed calm because it's a time trial race if you think about it, right? And I had a very sort of set in my mind that this isn't a race. I'm not racing these guys here. I'm racing a time and a position. And if I can lock in that, that'll keep me calm. And I just need I'm here to do a job and I'll get the job done. And I didn't have worry about any of the other lads in the race all day.
What about, I mean, are those beta fuel gels, are they caffeinated?
No, no.
No. So were
The
you
only
taking any,
caffeine
were
I
you
had
taking
was
caffeine? Were you taking any sodium?
no. The only caffeine I took
Precision
was
hydration, get out of here.
yeah, I had two I had two mouthfuls of flat Coke that I had in my drop bag. That was it. Now they had Coke there, but your one said, "Do you want Coke?" I said, "That's okay, I have Coke here myself," because I just wasn't sure if theirs was flat. I knew mine was flat. I took two mouthfuls of that at 52k. It's the only caffeine I had. It's the only caffeine I had. I had 2 cups of coffee in the morning for breakfast, and I never once thought, "Oh, I need caffeine." I never thought I need salt. You know me though, I don't really sweat. Like I don't sweat much, so I don't lose much salt.
Doesn't sweat, doesn't get thirsty, doesn't need the carbs. It's just a machine. And what are we always saying? You and I are always chatting about this. We're always talking about it in the WhatsApp. Like people are too fixated on the 1 to the 5% of gain that you can get from doing all of these little things. And they're spending all of this disproportionate amount of time. Just do the 95%. Just do the
Yeah.
training, just consistently do the training because that gives the biggest return. Don't be thinking, oh, I've got to do this salt, I've got to do the bicarb, I've
Mm.
got to do the flipping recovery boots. Yeah, they're all fine, but put all your energy into doing the bloody training.
The one thing I needed to get me through that race was these little legs here. And the only way they were going to get strong is by training in the morns. I spent weeks in the morns, and that was the difference. I knew where I was all day long. I knew every climb. I knew every descent. And that's the next percent. That's the next percent. Knowing the course, knowing the terrain and knowing how to move through it.
Yeah, totally. It took it out of your head. Like instead of
Yeah,
wondering, I'm on course, what's next? What's this climb? You were at peace. You just had to go out there and run.
yeah. And I'm not messing with you. Somebody said to me the other day, "Oh man, you were out there so long. You're out there for 9 hours." I think I was 9:43 or something like that. It absolutely flew by. It flew by. I I'm not messing with you. I enjoyed the whole day. I enjoyed the whole experience. I enjoyed being like surrounded by that caliber of athlete that was pushing you because they're pushing you to do better, you know. And this sport, it's full of sound people. All these lads, they're sound. You can have the crack with them. You can have the chats with them, and everybody's supportive, and everybody's happy for you. And it was just deadly. It was a fantastic day. It was one of the best days of my life, man. Yeah.
Yeah, look, it was a great run, and also it was a great route. Personally, I think the 50K looks like a nicer route to run. You don't have that forest section, and it's just more of a classic route. So I do like the look of the 50K. But look, let's wrap it up here. We're just over the hour. A few more questions. Just bang them out for
Mm.
the listeners and the viewers. What's recovery look like? How you stay and how do you stay kind of injury free? I know the answers to this, but give it to the people.
Did this race, this race needed to go well for other things to go well, right? As in, I needed to get this done so that I can focus on Western States. Western States, I'm flying out on the 5th of June. But before that, my wife's brother is getting married on Friday, so I'm going to chill. I'm going to enjoy myself at that wedding. I haven't had a beer in a long time, so I'm going to have a few beers at that. I'm
Just
going to
no
take
more
the
than
bike
two.
out. Yeah.
I've seen you on two beers. Just leave it at two.
Yeah, yeah. I'll probably take the bike out if the weather's nice. If it's not, I'm not putting myself under any pressure. I know when I'll go back running when I feel like going back running. Um, But for me, it's just like chill, let the body recover, let it do its thing. I'm 42 now, not 22. I need to give it a little bit of time. Probably
Yeah.
take my bike is over here. Probably take the bike out and then get over to California for Western States and enjoy some unbelievable trails over there and try and keep myself taking over. Don't need to do a whole pile. I think that race in itself, if I come out with that, look, I've only got sore toes. If I mind myself during this bit of recovery, I will gain a lot of fitness from this. I will gain a lot of strength from this, and that'll push me towards Western States and have me in good shape for Western States.
We've got a comment in the chat there from Ultra Poser. Describe nice Irish weather. I think I can take this one. Nice Irish weather is about 13 degrees and moderately sunny.
Mm.
That's a
Yeah.
lovely day at home
That's a
to be out
famous day.
running.
We'd say that's a famous day. It's a famous day. We'd remember that day.
Yeah, two more degrees and people will be having their tops off.
Yeah.
And since Ultra Poser is in California, that is probably about a low 60 Fahrenheit. Ricky, anything you want to leave the audience with before we wrap it up?
Look, to everybody, because there's been a lot of comments, messages on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, the Trail Talk group, everybody that has reached out to me, it really touches me to the heart, lads. It was incredible. Like I had so many messages, so many beautiful comments. It's a great sport. It's the best sport in the world.
Yeah, well said. Before we close it out here, I got a shout out because the community we're running as well. Holly, third at a 50K in Finland after coming off a DNF at MDS. So nice to get a bit of a redemption run. Nick and Katie finished the Cape Wrath Ultra 6 day. Epic run in Scotland. Like I
Unreal.
was chatting with Nick and the stats of it are crazy. I can't remember what they are, but I think he shared them in the WhatsApp. Kev ran the 145-mile Grand Union
Mile.
Canal race in England. That's pretty flat. There's a lot of running in that. That amount of running would
Yeah.
scare me. And then we had what Joe, Carl, James, Ronan, a load of boys in the Granite Peaks 50K.
50.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure I've missed a few names there as well. So well done to all of them. Well done to you. You said how it is, and you went out and got the job done. So congratulations, Ricki. We're going to States, baby, and we're going to the World Champs. And
Yeah.
for everyone that's tuned in, thank you. If you haven't caught all of the show, you can catch it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube from tomorrow morning in the UK. It gets published at 6 a.m. If you're in Australia, where I am right now, it's 3 p.m. The show is live on all the podcast players. So on that note, see you soon, Ricki, and hope everyone else has good running. Peace.
Peace.